Hey, gun people, the memo's out. Release the memo. All right, let's take a look at this memo here. If those want to download it or copy it, I've uploaded to my website. If you go to thinklikeacop.org, scroll down, you'll see right here FBI corrupt Nunes Memo. And you can download it if you want or read it or do whatever you want with that. Okay, so let's get down to memo here. It was declassified by the president on February 2nd. The main problems with this is Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, Department of Justice, and the Federal Bureau of Investigation. And basically it defines all of them down here, and then it gets down to our findings right down here, detailed raised concerns with legitimacy and legality of certain DOJ, FBI interactions with the Foreign Intelligence Court, the FISA court, and represents a breakdown in the legal process to establish and protect the American people from abuses from the FISA process. So this, although I think this memo has multiple meanings, this request for this memo to be unclassified and to be public is a good thing because it shows our government, at least the Republican side, is trying to be transparent and is trying to expose abuses within the federal government, which is what our representatives should be doing. Now, I'm not saying the Republicans did this all because they care about the people and we should trust them 100% because they did this just for us. I think they all had ulterior motives and they had other things to gain by this, but it's a good thing. Those are the good things about this memo. Okay, so let's go through the memo here line by line, figure out how the investigation was hindered and basically lied to the court. Okay, on 2016, DOJ and FBI sought to receive a FISA probable cause order on the surveillance of Carter Page. Okay? Page is a U.S. citizen who served as a volunteer advisor to Trump presidential campaign. So, to start the conspiracy, the DOJ and FBI wanted to get a warrant on Trump's campaign. Let's make that clear. So why did they want this warrant? What was their probable cause for saying? Because remember, when you get probable cause to get a warrant, your probable cause is a state of facts and circumstances that would lead you to believe a crime is being committed, has committed, and evidence of that crime is where you want to search or get your wiretap. So the FBI and DOJ would have had to say, we want this in this probable cause order. We think Page, working for the Trump administration in collusion with Trump, is doing something illegal and there's a crime ongoing, and therefore we want to wiretap him. Now remember, the FISA warrant falls under the foreign intelligence. Okay? So how is this foreign intelligence unless they were trying to say it's foreign intelligence because of Russia? Ooh, the big bad Russians. Okay, consistent with the requirements of FISA, the application had to first be certified by the deputy director of the FBI. It was then required approval from the attorney general. Now, in a search warrant that you would get locally or a local cop would get, it would have to be reviewed and approved by the attorney general. That would be like the DA. He would have to approve it. And then the judge would have to sign it. So they have a federal judge that's assigned to sign these FISA warrants. So he would approve and he would read the probable cause order after the attorney general or somebody signed off saying, yes, I agree with this. It's true and correct. I think there's probable cause. I think we have a crime. And I think you, judge, should sign this. So after the Attorney General, Deputy Attorney General, or the Assistant Attorney General for the National Security Division signed off on this, they took it to a judge. Okay, so the FBI and DOJ obtained one initial FISA warrant targeting Carter Page and 3 FISA renewals. Now, according to the FISA renewals, every time you get a renewal, every 90 days, oh, here it is. It says that right here. The FISA warrant on American citizens must be renewed every 90 days. And each renewal requires a separate probable cause, a finding of probable cause. So that's important here. And the reason why that's important is because they had to show with each subsequent warrant that they got what new probable cause they had. You can't just give them the same probable cause. So whatever they used in this first probable cause, they could not use for the only thing for their new probable cause. It had to be, you have to show a progression or new evidence or what has the first warrant gotten you. And I don't know how they did that because we're not able to see all the probable cause warrants or the warrants that were issued. I think those ought to be released too. But we'll get into this memo here saying why they did this. So Director Comey, James Comey, the wonderful Mr. Comey, signed 3 FISA applications in question. So he signed 3. Deputy Director McCabe signed 1. So the only people approving these warrants were Comey and McCabe. Okay, remember that. 2 top guys at the FBI, 2 top guys that like Clinton over Trump, and 2 top guys that gave money to the Democrats and don't like Trump. So they're the ones that are approving these warrants and their probable cause. It gets better. I mean, this is just a huge conspiracy, and I do think people ought to go to jail, and I definitely think that fruits of the poisonous tree should fall into here, and I'll get to that in a minute. Okay, so then acting as the DAG, and the DAG is Deputy Attorney General Sally Yates, Deputy Attorney General Dana Boutique Bonanetti, whatever, and Rob each signed 1 or more of the FISA applications on behalf of the DOJ. Now, we don't know what their affiliation is yet. We do know they're Deputy Attorney Generals. Due to the sensitive nature of the foreign intelligence activity, FISA submission, including renewals, are classified. That's a big problem. Unless it has classified information in it, it should not be automatically classified. Government wants things automatically classified so they don't have to justify classification. That's not a good thing. That means they get to keep everything secret. A regular warrant that we file as a police officer to get a search warrant, we have to request that that document is sealed if we think it's got sensitive information that could interfere with the ongoing investigation, which is the same thing as classified. Basically, they're sealing the documents so nobody can have access for it, so it doesn't compromise ongoing investigations. But because it's automatic, there's no renewal and there's no justification. They just get to keep everything they do secret. That's not good. That's not how it works in a state. The Fed gets to do that. As such, the public confidence in the integrity of the FISA depends on the court's ability to hold the government to the highest standard, agreed, on any warrant, particularly as it relates to surveillance of American citizens. However, the FISA's rigor in protecting the rights of Americans, which is reinforced every 90 days on renewals of the surveillance orders, is necessarily dependent on the government's production of the court and all material and relevant facts. This should include information potentially favorable to the target. Now, this is a key sentence here. This should include information potentially favorable to the target of the FISA warrant, which means you're not supposed to, when I write a warrant, I have to give the judge full disclosure. If I withhold anything from my warrant that I'm writing, my warrant becomes null and void because I got it even though I signed it, and I'm assuming these FISA warrants have to be, anytime an officer does a FISA warrant, you have to certify under penalty of perjury and swear and affirm that everything contained in this warrant is true and correct. That means that you didn't omit anything or you're not withholding anything from the approving authority, who is the judge. This was absolutely not done. They absolutely withheld a lot of information from the judge that if the judge had, he probably would not have given a warrant, or it would have tainted the probable cause, or it would have caused more questions or more justification for the warrant to be issued. But because they withheld it, the warrant was issued. That's flat out conspiracy to commit a crime, perjury. People need to go to jail and be charged. Absolutely. Boy, this is where it gets down and dirty. So they're supposed to give everything, and they didn't. They omitted serious facts. And they think they omitted material and relevant information. Now, the reason why material and relevant is important is if I leave out a comma or I leave out a this or a that, or I make a mistake in what I said, that's not considered fraudulent, and I'm not committing perjury when I'm doing my warrant. However, if I intentionally and maliciously leave out material and relevant facts that the judge should know and that I know and I didn't tell the judge, that is absolutely misconduct. It's perjury. It's conspiracy. It's obtaining a warrant on a false pretense. I mean, it's just outrageous that Comey and McCabe at the top of the FBI reviewed and knew, because they reviewed a probable cause, they knew what was being left out, and they did it intentionally, and they got a false warrant under false pretense, even after it was signed under penalty of perjury. Absolutely outrageous. So the dossier compiled by Christopher Steele, and they call it the Steele dossier. I also have that linked on my website. If you want to read the Trump-Russian dossier, it's right next to the FBI corrupt Nunes Memo Trump-Russian dossier. So the dossier was compiled by Christopher Steele. And this gets hairy here, keeping up with all this. I mean, these lies and web of deceit is just amazing. So Christopher Steele dossier, on behalf of the DNC, the Democratic National Convention, and the Hillary Clinton campaign, formed an essential part of the Carter Page application, which means they used and relied on the Steele dossier and the contents of the Steele dossier to get the FISA warrant on Carter Page to spy on Trump. So the Steele dossier, when you rely on this in a warrant and you're saying this is what we're relying on and the contents of this dossier, we believe it's true and correct and gives us probable cause and has been verified as reliable. Well, how do you verify something reliable? Well, there's many different ways. They didn't do it here, and they hid on why it was unreliable and why they should not have used it. So Steele is a long-time FBI source and was paid over $160,000 by DNC and Clinton campaign. So you have basically Steele is an employee of the Clinton campaign and the DNC. He writes a dossier. Comey and McCabe get a warrant to spy on Trump through the FISA system using the Steele dossier that was written by Steele, who works for Clinton campaign and the DNC. You talk about a stinking, what a scam. Okay, via the Parker firm, GPS, to obtain derogatory information on Donald Trump and his ties with Russia. So basically, what it boils down to is the FISA warrant was issued because of this dossier, and somehow the people who wrote the warrant failed to tell the FISA judge, hey, by the way, the dossier we're relying on was paid for by the DNC and the Clinton campaign, and a guy works for them that wrote the dossier, just in case you think that would have any impact on how much weight you give the Steele dossier. Are you kidding me? I mean, they can't even, if this federal judge, unless he's a Clinton campaign, honoree too, and he loves the left, he should be outraged that they lied to him and got him to sign a warrant and withheld all this. He should be outraged and calling for their arrest. I'd be writing, if I was an FBI agent, I'd be writing a warrant for the arrest of these guys, and I'd be taking it to the federal judge that did his warrant and have him sign a warrant to arrest these knuckleheads for conspiracy, filing a false warrant, committing perjury. Unstinking believable. Wait, it gets better. All right. Neither the initial application or any of the renewals disclose the reference to the DNC or Clinton campaign or the party campaign funding of Steele efforts. Unbelievable. When you're relying on an informant that works for the FBI, that's being paid by the FBI, that's also working for the Clinton and the DNC, and you withhold that from a warrant, oh my God, that's outrageous. This warrant needs to be made public to show how much they lied and what they said in this warrant. If there's not classified information in that warrant needs to be unsealed and be made public. The initial FISA applications note Steele was working for a named U.S. person, but does not name the Fusion GPS. Why? because the judge might have connected the dots and went, Fusion GPS, isn't that a Clinton and Democratic National Convention group that's digging up dirt on Trump? And now you're using this to get a warrant to spy on Trump? Jesus, even a blind squirrel could find that nut. But you know what? They withheld that. Oh, huge violation of law. People need to go to jail. This is outrageous. So let's see. Involved the Steele dossier. The application does not mention Steele was ultimately working on behalf and paid by the DNC and the Clinton campaign. Out freaking rageous. The FBI had made authorized payment to Steele for the same information. So the way the FBI manipulated this information is they said he's an informant and we paid him and we think he's reliable. Now, when a government agency uses an informant, they have to justify the reliability. And the way I would justify reliability of a warrant if I'm using an informant is to say this informant has provided me several other cases where the information has proven to be correct. He's given me information that I got a warrant on based on his information, and in that warrant service I seized evidence that was related to this informant's information. Therefore, I believe he's reliable. I would like to see what the FBI used to make Steele a reliable informant. Did they say he's reliable because he works for the Clinton campaign and he's being paid by them to gather dirt on Trump? I doubt it. Out freaking rageous. Okay, here we go. Carter Page, the advisor to Trump, FISA application also cited on September 22nd's Yahoo News article. Wait a minute. Yahoo's involved in this? Well, we know Yahoo's in the tank for the Clinton and the left. That even makes it more of a sleazy warrant. But wait a minute. It gets better, people. Unstinking believable. Yahoo News article by Michael, which focuses on Page trip to Moscow. So Yahoo does an article on Page because he went to Moscow. The article does not corroborate the Steele dossier because it was derived from information leaked by Steele himself to Yahoo News. So let me get this straight. Steele, who worked for the DNC, writes a dossier about Trump, and he leaks that dossier to Yahoo News, and Yahoo News prints it. Unstinking believable. The Page FISA application incorrectly assesses Steele did not directly provide the information. So what they're saying is, in the FISA warrant, they did not say that Steele gave the information to Yahoo. They used the Yahoo News as a corroborating source because they said the same thing that Steele said. Therefore, we have independent corroboration that Yahoo got this information and Steele got the information. Therefore, it must be correct because two different sources has it. They failed to tell the judge that Steele told Yahoo what to print. Yahoo printed it, and that's how they knew that it was the same thing that Steele said. Unstinking believable. I can't believe it. Oh man. I'm reading this and I'm just salivating on what kind of warrant and what kind of charges I could be writing up right now if I was doing a probable cause statement to arrest these guys. Because this is just outrageous. Steele has admitted in British court findings that he met with Yahoo News and several other outlets in September at the direction of the Fusion Group, the one that wanted dirt. So he's still working for the FBI and he's working for the Fusion Group, which is working with Yahoo News to make a report on his findings that the FISA warrant used has corroborating evidence of the Steele finding of the report that he did, that he was paid to do by the DN. Are you freaking kidding me? Nobody's been arrested yet? I can't believe it. This is outrageous. Perkins Cole was aware of Steele's initial media contacts, Washington, D.C. Okay. Steele was suspended and then terminated from an FBI source as it defines the most serious violations and unauthorized disclosed to the media. When you work as a source or an informant with the FBI or government agency, you have to sign a little list of rules saying you will not engage in criminal activity, you won't do drugs, you won't carry drugs, you won't commit any criminal acts, blah, 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 blah. And obviously, the FBI says you won't disclose to the media anything in the investigation. And normally, all of them say you won't talk about the investigation or disclose things in the investigation because it could compromise and jeopardize officer safety and get people hurt. So, him disclosing to the media violated that contract, so they terminated him. At that point in time, on the next warrant, they had an obligation to notify the judge that their informant was deemed unreliable, and the preceding warrants that they had got based on his information, they should have had to re-justify that warrant and say, you know what? Because he's no longer reliable, the warrant that we got on him is unreliable. Therefore, fruits of the poisonous tree, everything that we found or have found or anywhere that seed that was planted by this unreliable, terminated informant is now fruits of the poisonous tree and has to be started over. They should have had to start over if they told the judge. Guess what? Nobody told the judge. Wow. Steele should have been terminated from his previous undisclosure with Yahoo and other outlets before the Page application was submitted. So it sounds like they knew about him meeting with the media when they went for the first FISA application. Out stinking rageous. And they're saying that Steele improperly concealed and lied to the FBI about these contacts. Steele needs to be in jail, and I'd have a probable cause written on him in about 3 seconds flat yesterday for lying to the FBI and causing us to get a false warrant and causing us to certify a warrant. Why isn't the FBI arresting Steele? Steele ain't arrested. He's still a hero from the left wing getting played by the Clinton Crime Foundation and Yahoo and everyone else. He's making a mint and he ain't arrested yet. Are you kidding me? Steele's numerous encounters with the media violated the cardinal rule of his source handling, maintaining confidentiality demonstrated by Steele has become less than reliable. Why wasn't he arrested and charged? They arrested and charged somebody that they found in the Trump administration for lying, but they did not arrest Steele. Are you kidding me? Man. Before and after Steele was terminated as a source, he maintained contact with DOJ. So after he was terminated, he still had access and maintained contact. Gee, that's a shocker. Normally, when somebody is terminated for lying and obstructing justice and lying to the FBI, normally he doesn't have handshakes and visiting privileges to the DOJ, but not in this case, because the DOJ and the FBI is as crooked as they come. They need to go through there with a big-ass vacuum and start vacuuming up some of the trash, because that place is corrupt. Unstinking believable. Shortly after the election, the FBI began interviewing this Orr guy, and I may be pronouncing his wrong one, documenting his communication with Steele. September 16th, Steele admitted to Orr his feelings against Trump candidate. And Steele said he was desperate that Donald Trump not get elected and was passionate about him not being president. This is the same guy that they got warrants to spy on Trump. This is the same guy that lied to the FBI. This is the same guy that was getting paid by the Clinton Crime Foundation and the DNC to gather dirt on Trump, and now he's saying he's desperate, and he still has access to the DOJ. Wow. Unbelievable. And none of this was ever disclosed to the judge that was issuing the warrants or subsequent warrants. Unstinking believe. Are you kidding me? I'm freaking. My blood pressure's so high right now, I just can't believe it. I am so offended as a citizen, as a cop, as somebody that's done federal warrants and search warrants, and how particular they have to be and how serious they are, because we're impending and searching and just invading people's privacy, and we're searching them and their communications. When you do a warrant, that is a serious thing. And when I raised my hand and swore that my warrant was true and correct to the best, and I swear and affirm that that warrant is true, as many times as I did that in my law enforcement career, to see this being done openly and fraudulently and just flagrantly like the FBI is doing, I am so outraged and disgusted. During the same time period, Orr's wife, it gets better, don't think it's over, Orr, who was being buddies with Steele, his wife is employed by the Fusion Group, which paid Steele, are you kidding me, to assist in the opposition research on Trump. That was never discussed in the FISA warrants. Later provided the FBI with all of his wife's opinion research, opposition research, by the DNC and the Clinton Crime Foundation via the Fusion Group are unstinking believable. The relationship with Steele and the Fusion Group was inexplicably concealed from the FISA warrant. This federal judge could be having a fit. He could be calling people and subpoenaing every one of these. He could have them standing in front of his office. He could have them standing in court and automatically send them to jail with no warrant for contempt. He could be doing all kind of things. Why isn't this judge holding these people's feet to the fire? Outrageous. I know I've gone on. This is the last part of the memo right here. The Page FISA application also mentions information regarding fellow Trump campaign advisor George Papadopoulos, but there's no evidence of any cooperation and conspiracy between Page and Papadopoulos. So they're trying to connect Page. Again, this is a fishing exposition from the FBI, from the DOJ, from the FISA court. If this judge doesn't do anything, he's just as guilty as conspiracy. If he allows all this to go without nobody going to jail, he's just as guilty, which means he didn't really want the truth, and he's signing warrants, which is BS. This federal judge ought to be removed from the bench if that's the case. But we'll see what happens, how this plays out. The information triggered an opening of the FBI counter surveillance investigation in 2016. The FBI agent Peter Zork reassigned special counsel FBI human resources for improper texting to his mistress. Remember the mistresses who were going back and forth saying, hey, we can't get Trump. The secret society FBI attorney Lisa Page, no known relation to Carter Page, where they both demonstrated clear bias against Trump and in favor of Clinton. The Lisa Page text also reflected extensive discussion about the investigation, orchestrating leaks, which means leaking things to the media, and included meetings with Deputy Director McCabe. Unstinking believable. This is the most corrupt and deepest corruption I've ever seen in our government in my lifetime. This is absolutely, the FBI, Comey and his cohorts absolutely tried to pull a coup on the presidency and use their official position, just like the Democrat used the IRS to attack conservative organizations. The FBI used warrants, the federal judge, the federal court system, probable cause, falsifying probable cause. They did all this in order to try and overthrow and get Trump not elected. And now, after he's elected, they're still continuing to lie behind the scenes with this phony investigation over a year, costing the taxpayers millions and millions of dollars, not to find anything but push their liberal left lying crooked agenda. Absolutely outrageous. I'm glad this memo was released. Wow.